The first Zarkonian ships appeared like black spots against the morning sky. Within hours, they grew into monsters of steel and plasma that blocked out the sun. People in Washington, D.C. looked up from their Monday commute and saw the end of the world hanging above them. Jake Morrison was grabbing coffee from a food truck when the air raid siren started. His phone buzzed with an emergency alert. All military personnel report for duty. Jake tossed his coffee in the trash and ran for his car. As a captain in the Pacific Defense Fleet, he knew this day might come. The Zarkonian Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for centuries, crushing every civilization they found. By the time Jake reached his base, the first attacks had already begun. Massive beams of blue light tore through cities from California to New York. The smell of burning concrete filled the air. Fighter jets scrambled into the sky, but they were like insects against the alien ships. Within minutes, most of Earth's defense satellites went dark. "Sir, we've lost contact with most of the orbital platforms," Lieutenant Ben Foster reported as Jake entered the command center. Screens showed destruction across North America. Seattle was burning. Los Angeles had gone silent. "What about our nuclear response?" Jake asked. "Launched everything we had. Their shields absorbed it all," Foster said. His hands shook as he pulled up the data. "Nothing we have can penetrate those shields." Jake watched the screens in horror. The Zarkonians weren't just attacking military targets, they were hitting everything. Hospitals, schools, shopping centers. This wasn't conquest. This was extermination. Captain Morrison, Colonel Rachel Peterson entered the room. "We're evacuating all surviving military personnel to underground bunkers. You need to get to Sector 7 immediately." "What about civilians?" "We're doing what we can, but most civilian bunkers are compromised. We need to preserve our fighting strength for when we can counterattack." Jake grabbed his gear and headed for the evacuation vehicle. As he drove through, the city streets' chaos surrounded him. Cars crashed into each other as people panicked. Buildings collapsed from the continuous bombardment. The sky had turned orange from all the fires. He reached Sector 7's entrance just as another wave of plasma fire struck nearby. The shockwave knocked him to the ground. When he looked up, he saw a woman trying to pull someone from a collapsed building. Without thinking, Jake ran to help. "Are you okay?" he shouted over the explosions. The woman looked at him with wild eyes. "My colleague. She's trapped inside. We were at the university." Jake recognized the building, University of Seattle. "Which floor?" "Basement, the archaeology department." More plasma fire lit up the sky. Jake knew he should get to the bunker, but he couldn't leave someone trapped. "Stay here," he ordered. The building was unstable, with large chunks falling from the ceiling. Jake navigated through the rubble, following the woman's directions to the basement. He found the archaeology lab partially collapsed. Under a heavy desk, he discovered another woman, unconscious but alive. "Lisa? Lisa, can you hear me?" The first woman called out as Jake pulled her colleague free. Lisa groaned and opened her eyes. "Kate, what's happening?" "The Zarkonians are here. We need to move now," Jake said, helping her to her feet. More explosions rocked the building. The walls began to crack. As they ran for the exit, part of the ceiling gave way. Jake pushed both women ahead of him and felt debris slam into his back. "This way," Kate shouted, pointing to a different corridor. "There's another exit through, the old storage tunnels." They stumbled through dust-filled air until they reached a narrow stairway. It led down into tunnels that seemed much older than the building above. The walls were made of stone instead of concrete. "I've been studying these tunnels," Lisa said as they descended. "They're not on any city map. They're ancient, pre-colonial." Behind them, the building collapsed completely. Dust rushed down the stairway, but the tunnels held firm. They kept moving, with Jake carrying Lisa when she stumbled from her injuries. After what felt like hours, they emerged into a large underground chamber. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly in the darkness. In the center stood a pedestal holding something wrapped in ancient cloth. "This is it," Lisa whispered. "This is what I've been looking for." "What is this place?" Jake asked. "I don't know, but I've found similar symbols in other locations around the world. They all point to pre-human civilizations that shouldn't exist. Kate was crying quietly. The university is gone. Everything is gone. Jake's radio crackled to life. All units, this is General Command. Earth forces have surrendered. The Zarkonians are establishing occupation zones. Any surviving military personnel should remain hidden. Surrendered. The word echoed in the chamber. Earth had fallen in less than a day. Lisa moved toward the pedestal. Help me with this cloth, whatever's underneath might be important. Together they unwrapped the bundle. Inside was a sword unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The blade looked like it absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Strange runes ran along its length, matching those on the walls. It's beautiful, Kate said. Jake reached out to touch it. The moment his fingers made contact, pain shot through his arm. Visions flooded his mind. Images of massive battles in space, creatures fighting with weapons that split planets, and Earth as a key battleground in an ancient war. When the visions ended, Jake found himself gripping the sword. It felt perfectly balanced, though it should have been too heavy to lift. The runes along the blade glowed with inner fire. What happened? Lisa asked. I saw everything, Jake said. This sword was left here by an ancient race. They knew Earth would be important in a future war. They chose whoever found this place to be their champion. Outside, they could hear the sounds of Zarkonian ships establishing control. The occupation had begun. But in the underground chamber, holding an ancient weapon, Jake felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. We can't stay here, he said. We need to find other survivors and figure out how to use this thing. He looked at the sword in his hand. The war isn't over. It's just beginning. They spent 3 days hiding in the ancient chamber while Zarkonian patrols searched the surface. The alien ships made regular sweeps with blue scanning beams that could detect human life signs through solid rock. But somehow, the old tunnels blocked their technology. Jake spent hours studying the sword, trying to understand its power. The weapon responded to his touch, growing warmer when he gripped it. Lisa, despite her injuries, worked tirelessly to decode the symbols on the walls. Kate remained quiet, still in shock from losing everything. Look at this, Lisa said on the third day, pointing to a sequence of symbols she'd been translating. These runes tell a story. Thousands of years ago, Earth was the center of a galactic war between two ancient races. The creators of this chamber were called the Firstborn. They built this place? Kate asked. Yes. They knew they would lose the war, but they wanted to give future civilizations a fighting chance. This sword is called Mortal Bane, a weapon designed to grow stronger through combat. Jake tested the blade against the chamber wall. It carved through solid stone like butter. How does it work? From what I can read, the sword absorbs energy from defeated enemies. The more it's used in battle, the more powerful it becomes. And it bonds with its chosen wielder. A rumbling sound echoed through the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling. They're using ground-penetrating explosives, Jake said. We need to find another way out. Lisa pointed to a passage at the far end of the chamber. Those tunnels connect to the old city sewers. We might be able to reach other parts of the city. They gathered supplies from the chamber, a few ancient artifacts that might be useful, and some emergency rations Jake had carried in his pack. The sword, Jake discovered, could be strapped to his back and seemed to weigh almost nothing when worn. The journey through the narrow passages took hours. They emerged in an abandoned industrial district where the bombing had been light. Above ground, Seattle was unrecognizable. Zarkonian buildings, massive metal structures, rose from the rubble of human architecture. Kate pointed to moving figures in the distance. People. There are still people here. They found a small group of survivors hiding in a subway station. 7 humans, including an elderly man named Bob who had been a maintenance worker. You're military, Bob said when he saw Jake's uniform. What's the situation? Bad, Jake replied. Most of Earth's defenses are destroyed. They've started occupation operations. They're hunting for women and children. A young woman named Amy said. They take them somewhere. We haven't seen them since. Lisa examined a crude map the survivors had drawn. They've set up collection centers here and here. They're systematically gathering populations for transport. Where are they taking them? Jake asked. Doesn't matter, Bob said bitterly. Anyone they take doesn't come back. Jake felt the sword pulse against his back. The weapon seemed to react to his anger. Then we stopped them. The group looked at him with surprise. Kate spoke up. Jack, we're 10 people against an empire that just conquered Earth. He drew the sword. In the dim light of the subway, its black surface seemed to drink in the darkness. The runes along the blade glowed softly. Remember what Lisa said? This weapon grows stronger through combat. The more we fight, the better chance we have. Lisa had been studying more symbols she'd sketched from the chamber. There's something else. The firstborn didn't just leave the sword. They left a network of sites around the globe. Each location has weapons or knowledge meant to help against galactic threats. You mean there are more places like the chamber? Kate asked. Different sites with different purposes. But first we need to test what this sword can do. That night they got their chance. A Zarkonian patrol craft landed near their subway station. Jake watched from the shadows as 3 aliens in black armor emerged. They were 7 feet tall with 4 arms each and faces covered by masks that glowed red. Stay hidden, Jake whispered to the others. He gripped the sword and felt it warm in response. Focusing on the weapon, he suddenly knew, instinctively, how to use it properly. He moved like a shadow, faster than he thought possible. The first alien turned just as Jake's blade cut through its armor. The creature tried to scream, but dissolved into white mist that flowed into the sword. Jake felt power surge through him. The second alien fired an energy weapon. Jake moved before he even saw the shot coming, dodging left and striking in one fluid motion. Again, the alien became mist that fed the sword. The third alien activated, a distress beacon. Jake was on it instantly. The blade hummed with power as it cut through armor that had been designed to resist nuclear weapons. As the third alien dissolved, Jake felt the sword pulse with new energy. When he returned to the station, the survivors stared at him. The sword now glowed faintly, and the runes seemed more alive than before. What happened to them? Amy asked. The sword absorbed their life energy, Jake explained. I can feel it. Their knowledge, their strength, and something else. He concentrated on what he'd gained. I know Zarkonian weaknesses now. Their armor has vulnerable points here and here. He pointed to spots on his own body. Lisa was fascinated. This changes everything. If we can defeat more of them, we can learn their weaknesses, their technology. Over the following days, they began small but effective resistance operations. Jake learned that the sword enhanced not just his strength, but also his reflexes and knowledge with each victory. He could sense Zarkonian patrols before they arrived. He understood fragments of their language. Word of their success spread through survivor networks. More people joined their group, including a former police officer named Rick and a doctor named Sarah. They moved to a more defensible location, an abandoned factory with multiple exit routes. During one mission to gather medical supplies, they encountered something unexpected. A human collaborator, a businessman named Edward Phillips, was meeting with a Zarkonian commander. There are thousands more in the northwest sector, Phillips was saying. I can deliver them to you for the right price. Jake's blood boiled. The sword sensed his rage and responded, making his next movements impossibly fast. He killed the alien commander instantly, absorbing its power. Phillips ran, but Jake caught him easily. Why? Jake demanded. They promised me a place in their empire, Phillips begged. Earth can't win this war. Jake let him go with a warning, but the encounter taught them something important. Not all enemies wore alien armor. Meanwhile, Lisa had found more clues about other firstborn sites. There's one in Colorado, under what used to be NORAD, and another in Scotland. But there's something closer, a site mapped out under the old Hanford nuclear plant. How far? Jake asked. 200 miles. It's marked as a place of testing and training. The sword had grown stronger. Jake now moved with supernatural speed and could cut through nearly anything. But each battle brought more questions. The Zarkonians didn't fight like they were conquering. They fought like they were collecting. Collecting what? As they prepared to leave for the Hanford site, Bob approached Jake. "I'm too old for this fight, but take this." He handed Jake an old military radio. "My nephew was stationed in Nevada. There might be organized resistance there." That night they set out northeast, a small band of survivors carrying humanity's hope in an ancient sword. Jake could feel the weapon's power growing stronger with each step. He could also feel its hunger for battle. The Zarkonian occupation had only just begun, but somewhere in the darkness resistance stirred. The ancient Firstborn's plan was taking shape, one absorbed enemy at a time. In the distance, alien searchlights swept the sky, hunting for survivors. But for the first time, since the invasion began, humans were hunting too. The journey to Hanford nuclear plant took them 5 days. They moved at night, hiding from Zarkonian patrols and scavenging supplies from abandoned stores. The sword made Jake their perfect scout. He could sense alien life forms from half a mile away through the weapon's power. On the third night, they encountered their first real test. A Zarkonian supply convoy was moving through an old highway. 6 transport vehicles guarded by 2 escort craft carrying supplies to their occupation forces in Portland. "We should hide," Rick, the former cop, suggested. "They're too many." But Jake felt the sword's hunger. Each alien he absorbed made him stronger. "No, we attack." Lisa grabbed his arm. "Jake, you've killed maybe 10 aliens total. That convoy has at least 50. "Then I'll learn quickly," he said, drawing the sword. The blade hummed with anticipation. The attack came fast. Jake moved like a shadow, cutting down guards before they could sound alarms. The sword guided his movements, teaching him combat techniques as he fought. He learned that Zarkonian armor was strongest at the chest, but weakest at the joints. He discovered their energy weapons overheated after rapid fire. When he faced 3 aliens simultaneously, the sword showed him a spinning technique that cut through all of them. Their energy flowed into the weapon, making his next strikes even more powerful. By the time the convoy guards realized they were under attack, half were already dead. The remaining aliens retreated to defensive positions behind their vehicles. Jake felt new knowledge in his mind, their tactics, their communication codes. He used this to predict their movements, striking from unexpected angles. The final alien guard activated an emergency beacon before Jake could reach it. The device sent out a powerful signal that echoed in Jake's enhanced awareness. Help would come soon. "Jake, hurry," Kate called from their hiding spot. He absorbed the last guard and felt a surge of power unlike any before. One of these aliens had been a mid-rank commander, carrying years of combat experience. Jake's body felt different, stronger, faster, more aware. They fled as backup arrived. 2 heavy assault ships that reduced the highway to rubble with their weapons. But Jake's group had already vanished into the forest, carrying stolen supplies and vital intelligence. At their next camp, Jake shared what he'd learned. "The aliens are building something massive," he told them. "A collection facility big enough to hold millions of people. It's in Central Oregon, built around what used to be government bunkers." "Collection for what?" Sarah the doctor asked. "I don't know yet, but they're grabbing people systematically. Cities first, then smaller towns. They have lists, quotas." Lisa had been studying her notes about the Firstborn sites. "If we reach Hanford, we might find answers. The Firstborn left weapons there, but also something else, a database of galactic knowledge." 2 days later, they reached the old nuclear facility. The site had been abandoned for decades, but Lisa led them to a hidden entrance none of the official maps showed. They descended through security doors that only opened when Jake placed the sword against them. The underground complex was massive. Clean white corridors stretched in every direction, lit by some energy source that still worked after thousands of years. The central chamber held holographic displays that activated when they entered. "Welcome, chosen warrior," a voice said in perfect English. "The Firstborn greet you across the ages." Holographic images showed the history of the ancient war. The Firstborn had been a peaceful race, explorers and builders, They had scattered sites across Earth and other strategic planets, creating weapons and training facilities for future defenders, against the consuming empire that would eventually become the Zarkonians. The sword Mortalbane was designed to level the battlefield, the hologram explained. Your species is physically weaker than most galactic races, but you have adaptability and determination that others lack. Mortalbane bridges this gap by stealing the strength of your enemies. Jake tested new knowledge flowing into his mind. Combat techniques, energy manipulation, even basic understanding of alien technology. The sword had been preparing him, even as he thought he was just fighting. There are 4 champion sites, the display continued, each with specific training programs. You have mastered the basics. Now you must choose. Tactical warfare, energy mastery, technological understanding, or leadership development. Can't we do all of them? Jake asked. Each path requires dedication. Attempting multiple disciplines will weaken your effectiveness. Jake thought of the massive collection facility, of millions of people at risk. Tactical warfare, he decided. We need to fight smarter. The Firstborn training program downloaded directly into his mind through the sword. Battle formations, guerrilla tactics, strategic planning, knowledge accumulated over millennia of warfare. His body went rigid as the information transferred. When he recovered, hours had passed. His companions waited anxiously. I know how to fight them now, Jake said. Really fight them, not just reactive attacks, but strategic campaigns. That night they used Bob's radio to contact other survivors. The signal was weak, but they reached a resistance cell in what remained of Portland. This is Pacific Command. What's your location? The voice was military, professional. This is Captain Morrison. We're 20 miles southeast of Hanford. What's your strength? 300 fighters, limited weapons. We've been hit hard. Are you the one they're calling the Blade? Word had spread. Jake's successes against the aliens had given hope to scattered resistance groups. We're coming to you, Jake said. But I have a plan. The aliens are building a massive facility in Central Oregon. If we coordinate attacks on their supply lines, we can slow their construction. Every day we delay saves lives. Over the next week, Jake trained the Portland Resistance Cell in advanced tactics. He taught them the weak points in Zarkonian armor, how to predict their patrol patterns, how to use human technology in new ways. They struck at supply convoys with perfect timing. Jake led from the front, absorbing commanders to learn convoy schedules and defensive protocols. Each victory made the sword stronger, and through it, Jake gained knowledge that benefited the entire resistance. Amy, who had proven to be an excellent scout, discovered something crucial during a reconnaissance mission. The Zarkonians are nervous, she reported. They've doubled guards at key facilities. They're not acting like conquerors anymore. Jake had noticed the same thing. Through absorbed memories, he learned the Zarkonians were behind schedule. Their empire had rules about planetary acquisition. If Earth wasn't fully secured within a specific time frame, they faced penalties from their central authority. We can use this, he told his growing force. They're under pressure. Pressure creates mistakes. On the 10th day since arriving in Portland, they executed their largest operation yet, a coordinated strike on 3 supply depots simultaneously. Jake trusted his lieutenants. Rick led one team, Bob another, while Jake hit the main depot with veteran fighters. The battle taught Jake new lessons. When facing a Zarkonian battle commander named Vexenari, he encountered his first real challenge. This alien warrior had centuries of combat experience and equipment that neutralized most attacks. The fight lasted nearly an hour. Vexenari's blade could block Mortalbane, and his shots forced Jake to use defensive techniques he'd only just learned. But the Firstborn training program adapted Jake's movements in real time. He learned to redirect energy attacks, to predict patterns in alien combat styles. When Jake finally defeated Vexenari, the surge of absorbed power was overwhelming. The sword blazed with energy, and Jake felt his body transform. Stronger, faster, but also smarter in ways he couldn't explain. The victory had consequences. For the first time, the Zarkonian occupation forces retreated. They abandoned the supply depot, leaving behind advanced equipment and data terminals that gave resistance forces vital intelligence. But Jake also learned something terrifying. In Vexenari's memories, he saw the true scale of the Zarkonian Empire. Thousands of worlds. Billions of soldiers. Earth was only one of hundreds of ongoing conquests. "What's wrong?" Lisa asked when she saw his expression. "We're winning these small battles," he said. "But the Empire is vast. Even if we drive them from Earth, they'll just come back with more forces." Kate touched his arm. "So what do we do?" Jake looked at the sword in his hand, feeling its power coursing through him. "We make Earth too difficult to hold. We become a threat, not just a resistance." That night, resistance forces across the Pacific Northwest reported strange phenomena. Energy readings from Jake's location spiked. The sword was evolving again, and Jake with it. Somewhere in space, in the command ship maintaining orbit, the Zarkonian Supreme Commander reviewed Earth status reports with growing concern. This planet was supposed to be a simple acquisition. 3 divisions should have been more than sufficient. Instead, his forces were reporting impossible events. Humans striking with alien-level combat power. Supply lines disrupted. Veteran warriors disappearing without trace. And at the center of it all, reports spoke of a human warrior who absorbed the essence of fallen Zarkonians, growing stronger with each battle like something from their empire's darkest myths. The Supreme Commander looked at his tactical display. According to schedule, Earth should be 80% secured by now. Instead, his occupation percentage had dropped to 65% and falling. For the first time in 3,000 years of service, he felt an emotion long forgotten in Zarkonian culture. Fear. Earth's resistance was no longer passive. It had teeth, and those teeth belonged to a human who wielded an ancient weapon that made warriors' energy its own. The Oregon Collection Facility held 3 million people from across the western states. Jake studied its defenses through absorbed Zarkonian memories. 20 guard towers, shield generators, underground escape tunnels. It was built to be impenetrable. But every fortress had weaknesses. Lisa finished decoding the last ancient symbols they'd found in the Hanford complex. The Firstborn knew about facilities like this. They called them harvesting centers. The Zarkonians collect populations, then transfer them to processing ships. Processing for what? Jake asked. Labor. Their empire runs on slave labor. They drain planets of resources and people. Jake felt rage building inside him. The sword responded, its black surface rippling with energy. He'd grown considerably stronger since Hanford, but millions of lives required more than brute force. "We need help," he said. The radio messages mentioned resistance in Nevada. "Let's make contact." Amy worked the radio for hours before getting through. Static crackled, then a clear signal emerged. "This is Colonel Mike Rodriguez, Nevada Underground Command. Who am I speaking to?" "Captain Morrison. We're in Oregon. We need to discuss coordinated strikes." "The blade?" Rodriguez sounded surprised. "Every resistance cell has heard about you. Is it true about the sword?" "It's true, and we have a plan to free 3 million people from Zarkonian captivity." Within days, Jake met Rodriguez at a neutral point, an abandoned mining facility in Montana. The colonel brought 50 veteran fighters, including a former Air Force pilot named Tom and an explosives expert named Hannah. "Your reputation is bigger than you," Rodriguez admitted when they met. "We've heard you can cut through Zarkonian battle armor like paper," Jake demonstrated, slicing through a 6-inch steel beam. "The sword grows stronger with each enemy I absorb. But I need strategic support." Rodriguez studied the battlefield map Jake had drawn. "This facility is defended by at least 500 aliens. Even with your weapon, we'll need more than force." Hannah studied the energy shield specifications Jake had learned. "These generators have a harmonic frequency. If we can match it, we might create disruption points." They spent 2 weeks preparing. More resistance cells joined, bringing their combined force to nearly 1,000 fighters. Jake trained squad leaders in Zarkonian weak points and combat patterns. He learned that sharing knowledge was as powerful as absorbing it. During this time, Jake discovered something new about the sword. When he concentrated deeply, he could sometimes see through the memories of absorbed aliens. One night, he accessed Vexenari's deep memories and saw something crucial. "They're running out of time," he told his war council. "The Empire has a 60-day limit for planetary acquisition. After that, resources must be diverted to other conquests." "How long do we have?" Rodriguez asked. 12 days. The attack plan focused on 3 objectives. Hannah would create harmonic disruptors to weaken shield sections. Rodriguez would coordinate ground forces at vulnerable points. Jake would lead strikes against the shield generators themselves. The night before the assault, Jake found Lisa studying firstborn texts alone. "I've been thinking about the bigger picture," she said. "Even if we save these people, the Zarkonians will send more forces." "I know." Jake sat beside her. "But we have to try." "There's more." She showed him her notes. The firstborn left a final weapon, something they called the System Breaker. "It's hidden somewhere on Earth, designed to send a signal across the galaxy." "A signal for what?" "Help." The firstborn had allies, species that resist the Empire, but they need someone to activate the beacon. Jake touched the sword. Through its ancient connection, he felt confirmation of Lisa's words. The firstborn had planned for this moment, but the beacon's location remained hidden even from mortal bane. Dawn broke with explosions. Hannah's harmonic disruptors exploded against the energy shields, creating visible cracks in the blue defense barrier. Zarkonian guards scrambled to respond as human fighters poured from hiding spots. Jake led the main assault team. Moving faster than human eyes could track, he cut through defensive positions. Each absorbed warrior fed him knowledge of reinforcement, patterns, weak points in the facility's design. At the first shield generator, he encountered their strongest defenses yet. Automated turrets targeted him specifically. The Zarkonians had studied his attacks, creating countermeasures. But Jake had been studying too. He used Zarkonian combat codes to temporarily disable turret targeting. When the facility's sub-commander arrived with heavy weapons, Jake absorbed enough memory to know the generator's emergency shutdown sequence. The first shield section fell. Tom the pilot led air support through the gap, striking ground forces with salvaged Zarkonian weapons, while Rodriguez's troops poured into the breach. The battle raged for 6 hours. Jake destroyed 2 more generators before facing the facility commander, General Krextar himself. This was the highest-ranking Zarkonian on Earth, responsible for the entire invasion strategy. Their fight shook the building. Krextar wielded a ceremonial sword that could match Mortalbane's edge. Advanced armor deflected Jake's initial strikes. For each technique Jake used, the general had a counter. "You fight well for a primitive," Krextar said in broken English, "but you cannot win this war." Jake absorbed memories from their clash. Through them, he saw Earth's invasion from the enemy perspective. The Empire considered Earth valuable for its rare minerals and strong gravity-adapted workforce. But more importantly, Earth sat at a strategic crossroads between galactic territories. Understanding the true stakes, Jake fought with renewed purpose. He combined firstborn techniques with absorbed Zarkonian combat knowledge, creating hybrid fighting styles that the general couldn't predict. The deciding moment came when Jake redirected an energy blast back at Krextar. The general's own weapon became his weakness. As Jake's sword pierced the failing armor, he absorbed not just power, but crucial intelligence about the invasion fleet's location and strength. With their command structure broken, Zarkonian forces began retreating from the facility. Resistance. Fighters freed thousands of prisoners while Hannah's team secured advanced technology. But victory came with a terrible realization. In Krextar's memories, Jake saw the Empire's contingency plan. If Earth proved too resistant, they would activate stellar weapons to render the planet uninhabitable. "We need to evacuate," Jake told Rodriguez as they surveyed the captured facility. "They'll scorched earth the planet rather than admit defeat." "Where would we go?" the colonel asked. The firstborn left escape protocols, hidden ships, preset courses to allied territories. "We need to find the system breaker beacon first." Lisa approached with new data from captured Zarkonian computers. I think I found it. There's a location in Antarctica, coordinates that match ancient firstborn symbols, a place even these aliens fear to search. News of the Oregon victory spread rapidly. Resistance cells worldwide reported Zarkonian forces consolidating, pulling back from extended territories. The Empire was preparing for something. Jake felt the sword pulse with urgency. Through absorbed knowledge, he sensed the invasion fleet repositioning. They had perhaps 5 days before orbital weapons targeted major human population centers. That evening, Jake gathered his closest allies. We've proven humans can fight back. Now we need to think beyond Earth. The firstborn prepared for interstellar resistance, not just planetary defense. Are you saying we should run? Rick asked. I'm saying we should survive to fight another day, and maybe find allies who've been resisting this empire for longer than us. The sword had changed Jake fundamentally. He thought in terms of galactic strategy now, understanding supply lines that spanned star systems and political alliances between species he'd never imagined. But looking at his small band of survivors, he saw Earth's true strength wasn't the ancient weapon or absorbed powers. It was resilience, the determination to protect their own against impossible odds. As they prepared for the journey to Antarctica and the final firstborn site, Jake realized something profound. The sword hadn't chosen him because he was special. It had chosen him because he was human, a species that refused to accept defeat, even against an empire that had conquered countless worlds. In the distance, alien ships formed new geometric patterns in Earth's sky. The Zarkonians were regrouping for their final push, but this time, humanity would not meet them as unarmed victims. They would meet them as warriors carrying ancient power, modern knowledge, and a desperate hope that somewhere beyond Earth's skies, allies waited to join the fight against galactic tyranny. The journey to Antarctica required careful planning. With Zarkonian forces on full alert, Jake led a small team south, while Rodriguez organized the main resistance to continue harassment attacks. They flew stolen alien aircraft at night, skimming radar by following old smuggling routes Jake had learned from absorbed memories. Lisa navigated using coordinates she'd decoded. Kate brought supplies, including the artifacts Lisa deemed essential. Tom piloted their craft with Hannah monitoring systems. They were the future of humanity's resistance, a team bonded by survival, heading to find humanity's last hope. Antarctica had changed little since the invasion began. The vast ice sheets remained untouched by plasma fire. But underneath, Lisa's coordinates pointed to something ancient. They landed near an unmarked mountain range and found stairs carved into solid ice, leading deep beneath the glacier. Unlike other firstborn sites, this facility responded directly to the sword. Doors opened automatically as Jake approached. Holographics, displays activated in multiple languages, including English. Welcome, bearer of Mortalbane, the familiar AI voice said. You have completed the trials. This is the repository of last light. The central chamber housed something unexpected, not weapons or training programs, but a massive starship, pristine despite sitting frozen for millennia. Its design merged organic curves with crystalline structures, clearly superior to anything Jake had seen. The system breaker is not a weapon, the AI explained. It is a method of escape and return. This vessel carries 2 capabilities: instant travel to Allied space and the ability to summon help from those who still resist the Empire. Jake ran his hand along the ship's hull. Through the sword, he felt its readiness. How fast can it activate? Immediate. Departure is possible. However, the beacon signal requires specific gravitational conditions. Earth's position will be optimal in 36 hours. Kate studied the ship's specifications displayed holographically. It can carry thousands of people, but millions need evacuation, Tom pointed out. The dilemma was clear. They could evacuate some and call for help, potentially saving the rest, or they could stay and fight with no guarantee of survival. Jake's radio crackled. Rodriguez's urgent voice came through. Morrison, Zarkonian fleets are converging on major population centers. They're implementing a lockdown protocol, all civilians confined to designated zones. ETA? 24 hours before they start boarding transports. They're abandoning occupation. This is total harvesting. Decision made. Jake turned to his team. We're not running. We're using this ship as bait. His plan formed quickly. First, they would transmit location details to resistance cells. The ship remained their escape route, but Earth deserved to fight back before leaving. Within 12 hours, human resistance forces mobilized globally. Rodriguez led strikes in North America, while other cells hammered Zarkonian positions across continents. The sword-wielding warrior had become more than a fighter. He was the symbol of human defiance. But symbols needed to be strategic. Jake knew the Zarkonians would respond to threat assessment. He needed to become their primary concern. 0 hour. He led a direct attack on the Zarkonian command center in what remained of Chicago. The facility had been constructed from a major invasion ship that landed on Lake Michigan. Jake struck alone, moving faster than security systems could track. Inside, he faced waves of defenders, but each absorbed warrior added to his knowledge and strength. He learned override codes, weapon specifications, command structures. When he finally reached the command level, he confronted something unexpected. The Zarkonian Supreme Commander wasn't physically present. He appeared as a holographic projection from the orbiting mothership. "You are the one they call the Blade," the projection spoke in perfect English. "Your actions have created significant disruption." "Good to know," Jake replied, sword ready. "We offer terms. Surrender yourself for biological study. Your weapon will be analyzed and destroyed. In return, Earth will be granted protectorate status rather than resource classification. How about better terms? Leave entirely." The projection flickered with what might have been amusement. "Your species cannot enforce such demands. We have conquered 500 worlds. Earth will be 600. Jake noted the exact number. Important intelligence. "Your empire might find Earth requires recalculation." The facility began security shutdown. Jake moved before automated defenses activated. He carved through reinforced walls seeking the primary transmission center. If he couldn't reach the ship directly, he would force them to come to him. He found the transmission center and activated stolen command codes. Zarkonian emergency protocols broadcasted his location to all units. Every available ship would converge. On his position, "What are you doing?" Tom asked through the radio. "Creating opportunity," Jake replied. "How's the system breaker looking?" "Ready for immediate launch, but you said we needed more time for proper signal positioning." "Plans change. Load all refugees you can and launch for Allied space. Let the Sword's true wielder handle the rest." Back in Antarctica, Lisa hesitated. "Jake, you're planning to sacrifice yourself." "I'm planning to complete the mission. The sword was never meant for one person to keep. It's meant to fight extinction." The attack came within the hour. Hundreds of Zarkonian vessels descended on Chicago. Jake met them in the air, the sword now enabling limited flight through absorbed power. He weaved between buildings, using urban terrain to funnel enemies. Every warrior he absorbed added new strength. He could launch energy blasts now, turn Zarkonian weapons against them. When their greatest warrior descended, an elite champion named Vexmari, 7 feet of pure combat lethality, Jake met him as an equal. Their battle destroyed city blocks, but Jake had evolved beyond human limitations. He redirected blast weapons, with his bare hands moved faster than the alien's 4 arms could strike. When he finally absorbed Vexmari, the power surge lifted him completely above the surface. Through absorbed memories, Jake now understood the full conquest timeline. Earth had 2 hours before the orbital bombardment began. The system breaker would need 45 minutes to reach proper activation position. "Tom, how many refugees aboard?" 2,000 and counting. Rodriguez is loading more now. Some are refusing to leave without you. Launch anyway. Tell them their captain goes down with his ship." As the firstborn vessel lifted from Antarctic ice, Jake continued his delaying action. By now, he'd absorbed enough power that Zarkonian weapons barely slowed him down. He flew directly toward their command ship, knowing they'd focus all firepower on him. The orbital barrage meant to destroy Earth cities instead targeted his position. He drew their entire fleet's attention, while the system breaker escaped detection through stealth technology the Firstborn had specifically designed against Empire sensors. In space, Lisa watched through the ship's displays. The beacon is active. How long? Kate asked. 2 hours for the signal to propagate through subspace. Then we'll see if there are truly allies out there. Back on Earth, Jake had become something beyond human. Powered by dozens of absorbed alien warriors and the ancient weapon itself, he stood as proof of what humanity could become, not through evolution, but through adaptation and determination. The Zarkonian fleet prepared their final attack. Stellar weapons charged, designed to crack tectonic plates and render Earth uninhabitable. Jake sensed it through absorbed military knowledge. System breaker, are you clear? He called through stolen communications. Affirmative. Signal transmitted. Jake, we're receiving a response. Hope flickered in him. From who? Multiple species. They're saying they've been waiting for this call. The Firstborn were part of an ancient alliance. They're mobilizing now. Jake smiled. Even if he didn't live to see it, humanity would join, a larger community of resistors against galactic tyranny. The orbital weapons fired. Jake flew directly into the path of the destroyer beams. Through the sword's power, he had one final trick. The weapon had absorbed energy throughout his battles. Now he released it all at once, creating a blast that interrupted the orbital bombardment's energy patterns. The resulting explosion was seen from space. Where Jake's energy met the destroyer beams, space itself seemed to rupture. The flash disabled Zarkonian ships above North America. When the light faded, Earth remained intact, but Jake had vanished. The sword fell to the surface, its blade cool and quiet after its brief time as humanity's salvation. Above Earth, the Zarkonian fleet retreated as unknown vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel. Ships of elegant design, clearly advanced even by Empire standards. They had answered the system breaker's call. The leader of this relief fleet hailed Earth. This is Commander Athla of the Free Worlds Alliance. Your species showed remarkable resistance against the Zarkonian Empire. We are here to assist. They forced the Zarkonians into full withdrawal. The Empire hadn't expected resistance from their ancient enemies, hadn't prepared for planets they'd tried to conquer 3,000 years ago. In the aftermath, humanity faced rebuilding, but was no longer alone. The sword Mortalbane had completed, its purpose having been wielded to save not just Earth but potentially restore balance to a galaxy oppressed too long. Years later, when they were asked how Earth defended itself against overwhelming force, survivors would tell of an ordinary soldier who became extraordinary through an ancient weapon. They spoke of sacrifice that earned humanity a place among the stars, but those who looked at the stars knew the truth. The Firstborn hadn't just given humanity a weapon, they'd given them a future, and sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't ancient technology or absorbed power. It's the refusal to give up even when facing the impossible.